It's been my goal since I was elected office to learn as much as I could about what it means to be a legislator and to share that with my constituents and residents across the state. And one interesting thing that I think you would find interesting is the mail that I get. I want to suggest that in this next legislative session, you lobby your local public library to have a legislators corner where local legislators can just deposit the mail that they get so that the general public can see it. I definitely get mail that you don't get, and I think you would be interested in. Some is really helpful. For example, the Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks and other state agencies either send a letter or a postcard letting us know anytime they've made a decision or posted a publication. Rather than send me the whole thing, they've just told me where I can access an environmental assessment regarding Canyon Ferry. So that's a very helpful thing. And I want to talk about the out-of-state mailings that I get because I'm an elected representative. I'm going to start with this letter I got from Hillsdale College stating that they have sent me an entire copy of a textbook used in a class that's required by every single one of their freshmen, which is a guide to the Constitution, as part of their National Conversation on the Constitution course. And so I was really excited when I got this. As an educator, I thought that I would be able to share this with the government teachers at my school and perhaps some students who are interested in government. It came with a 10-part course, a DVD on the meaning and history of the Constitution, a beautiful bound over 700-page U.S. Constitution reader, which is actually not the Constitution, but the Federalist Papers, a lot of other supporting documents, I guess you could call them, inaugural addresses, and a study guide about the meaning and the history of the Constitution. So you can go through the study guide and ask yourself questions like, what is the difference between strong government and tyrannical government? What is the meaning of the separation of church and state? So they're suggesting a very strong correlation or very strong relationship between religion and politics, and how that's very different than religion and government. They also, in the lecture about progressivism, it says progressivism is the belief that America needs to move or progress beyond the principles of the American founding. Organized politically more than 100 years ago, progressivism insists upon flexibility in political forms unbound by fixed and universal principles. Progressives hold that human nature is malleable and that society is perfectible. Affirming the inexorable, positive march of history, progressives see the need for unelected experts who would supervise a vast administration of government. So an interesting take on progressivism from this completely nonpartisan educational course that all college freshmen have to take at the Hillsdale College. This beautiful package of educational book, DVD, and study guide also came with a flyer saying that in this course you will learn how the labor unions have contributed to the decline of our country, and other interesting information about your Second Amendment rights and how they're an expression of your First Amendment freedoms and all democracy in general. Tax-free, completely educational, nonpartisan material. Which takes me to this 200 and some page book, The Mad, Mad World of Climatism, that you can bet has been sent to every single state policymaker in the nation. It says, the good news is that contrary to what our newspaper, our professor, or our political leader tells us, global warming is natural and cars are innocent. And it's a book full of beautiful graphs and scientific charts and cartoons like this one that shows that greenhouse gases constitute about 1 to 2% of Earth's atmosphere. of these, water vapor and clouds cause at least 75% of greenhouse warming. Very scientific stuff. Another scientific study that says that carbon dioxide is great for plant growth. That's true. And this is sent by an educational group, a nonprofit, not taxed group, who is not trying to influence any legislator's opinion, but just wants to educate them about climatism. Calling anyone worried about global warming weather scaremonger. So imagine the expense of sending this book to every single politician in the United States. And last but not least, my very favorite is these monthly publications I get from the Heartland Institute. I get the environmental and climate news, and I get the budget and tax news. And the environmental and budget news says that polystyrene foam containers comprise less than 1% of landfill waste, so we don't need to worry about them. As far as GMO labeling, it says the labeling proponents seek to convey the false notion that genetically modified foods are a threat to human health. Their thrust is that consumers have a right to know what's in their food, even when it's not harmful. And the labelers that contravenes the FDA's approach to labeling, conveys warnings where no warnings are appropriate, and constrains commercially free speech. The plastic bag benefits. I don't know if you knew that plastic bags are actually good for the environment. They have multiple uses and easily meet the definition of recyclable. And California cities who want to ban plastic bags are actually waging germ warfare on their own citizens. That's a quote. Because there is food residue and germ growth in reusable grocery bags. This is educational material, nonpartisan educational material on composting in New York City, which I think there are some Montana cities who have already done this and have seen huge cost savings. That the expert notes that trucks will be necessary to collect the food waste and will put more vehicles on the streets, consume more oil and gas, and emit more pollutants into the city's air. There's no way food scraps can be picked up from every home throughout the city without greatly increasing the number of trucks, traffic, and tyranny, because we all know that composting is just food scraps. There's the satellite data shows global greening from the rise in carbon dioxide levels. So the carbon dioxide rise is actually causing our Earth to be greener. That global warming may have prevented weather disasters. So, this educational newspaper that I get every month on climate change is really informative. A suggestion that you subscribe to all 5 of the monthly public policies. Not only can I get this on environment, I could also get this monthly publication on school reform, healthcare, budget and tax, and fire policy. I want to share with you the budget and tax news. It says that the new farm bill that was recently passed is the worst and has come about by picking and choosing the worst aspects of the House and Senate passed bills. Somehow the conference created a Frankenstein monster that's even worse than the bills it started with, says Nan Swift, the federal government affairs manager at the National Taxpayers Union. Not a conservative group, of course not. Inside the front cover is an ad for consumers for healthcare choices. Not conservative. Not in any way political. Completely educational. Here's a huge article saying that Americans are actually doing way better than many analysts are saying, because there's enough anecdotal evidence to seriously question anyone who says that middle-income Americans are no better off than their parents or grandparents in the 70s. So they're saying that the middle class is really not struggling. We're just not looking at the right data. And I bet all of you out there who would be considered middle class or who hope to be considered middle class would definitely agree with that. I think that's all I have to share. Oh, there's a huge article here about capital gains, that the taxes on capital gains damage economic growth, because who does not want to limit the taxes on capital gains? Oh, that's right, the extremely wealthy. Are you being taxed on your capital gains? Yeah, neither am I. America is no longer near the top of economic freedom. This study that has been published by guess who, the publisher of this magazine, has said that the United States is continuing to lose its economic freedom. The Heritage Foundation report, which is these guys, states the drop is primarily due to deteriorations in property rights, fiscal freedom, and business freedom. Big attack on businesses. And for a completely non-political 501c3 organization to be sending this information as educational to every single lawmaker in every single state, I think is outrageous. You know how many pieces of progressive educational mail I've gotten in the last year? I couldn't find any when I went to do this video, but I found 4 or 5 of my old environmental and climate and budget news laying around. So where are the progressives on this topic? And how do you think that this reading material being sent to every single lawmaker in the country is affecting our policy making?